Okay, let's settle in for this. We're going to try and move into a space today that's, well, it's thin as steam. It's quiet as breath. We're not talking about the roar of the morning commute or, the endless feed of information. This is about that moment before the day really begins to demand things from you.
Exactly, that stillness. When the world hasn't quite remembered its name yet and your actions are just instinct.
Yeah.
And in that quiet, your hands move without thinking. They reach for the cupboard, but they go right past the whole shelf of gleaming porcelain.
The new ones.
The new ones, the mugs with the bold colors, even the gifts that are still, perfectly wrapped in cellophane.
They find her.
The old one.
The chipped cup, faintly stained from years and years of tea. The glaze is worn smooth, not by harsh cleaning, but by just countless quiet moments. The friction of choice over and over again.
And you don't even consciously choose it. It's more like a return.
It's exactly that. You return to her, like coming home to a place you knew instinctively but maybe had forgotten you're even traveling toward. I think everyone listening has that one object, that thing that is, by any objective measure, design or value, it's flawed. And yet it's the one we always reach for. It just resists that gravitational pull of the new. So I guess the mission for us, for you, is to understand this silent riddle, this ordinary ritual. Why do we do that? Why bypass the perfect and return to the worn?
Because here is the core paradox we've been exploring. Joy seems to bloom most brightly, not in the pristine, not in the untouched, but in the patina of use.
The patina of use.
The cup doesn't demand your attention. It doesn't perform some grand function beyond holding liquid. It just is.
Oh, yeah.
And invites you to join it in that state of simple being.
But that immediately challenges our cultural wiring, doesn't it? I mean, we're conditioned to crave novelty.
They are.
The next iteration, the latest upgrade. If something's flawed, we get rid of it, or at least, stick it on the back shelf. So why, when we hold that old cup, does something deep inside us just settle?
Yeah.
Instead of feeling that anxiety of imperfection.
That settling, I think, happens because we intuitively recognize that the cup isn't valued for what it lacks, a perfect rim or a spotless inside.
Right.
It's valued for what it carries. It holds not just liquid, but memory. It showcases not design, but devotion. It completely resists the logic of our disposable world.
But I feel like I have to offer some friction here.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of us, a chip or a stain, it isn't history, it's just a flaw.
That's a critical question.
So where do we draw that line between honoring history and just, hoarding clutter?
Yeah.
When does an imperfection become a virtue?
The line is drawn by attention. Clutter is everything you ignore. History is everything you attend to.
I see.
These chips and fades, they aren't flaws in its character. They're fingerprints of time. And time is neutral. They're just silent witnesses to mornings you barely remember, to conversations you've forgotten, to quiet triumphs nobody applauded.
So the cup has held space for you.
It has. And now you return the favor by holding it with awareness.
So the history imbues it with a kind of substance that novelty just can't replicate. It reminds us of a continuity.
Precisely. And this is how the object connects us to the concept of time itself. The cup is a constant, a silent companion on this journey through radical, relentless impermanence. And the deeper insight is this. Its meaning doesn't depend on its physical longevity. It depends entirely on your attention right now.
That idea of impermanence, that seems central to this whole deep dive, doesn't it?
It is. We call this truth mujo. It's a foundational concept, and simply put, it just means everything is changing all the time.
And that usually sounds so sad in our culture.
It does, but it's not meant to be a cause for sorrow. Instead, mujo is the very condition for beauty.
Can you give us an example of that? Just something conversational.
Well, think of a cherry blossom. It's precious because we know with absolute certainty that it will fall in a few days. A moment of silence is profound because we know the noise will return. And the chipped cup is cherished precisely because of its fragility, because you know it's living on borrowed time.
It reframes fragility from being a liability to being a source of value. So I guess the great takeaway here is this quiet strength of acceptance, of just allowing something to be flawed, familiar, and utterly enough. It almost gives us permission to be those things ourselves.
That's it. The cup teaches through its own constancy, through its quiet courage of being exactly what it is, resisting that constant urge to be polished or perfected or replaced.
So its history teaches us acceptance, but it also feels like this object is pointing us toward a kind of mental practice, a riddle, as you said.
Yeah.
How does this koan in the kitchen actually work?
We have to shift the focus from the cup's external history to its function as a puzzle for the mind, a koan. A koan is it's a short story or a question that resists purely intellectual analysis. It forces you toward a more direct, intuitive understanding.
Is that kind of like that old story, the one about the Zen master pouring tea until it overflowed?
Precisely. The student cries out, "Stop, it's full." And the master says, "Your mind is like this cup, already full of assumptions and noise. How can it hold wisdom if it can't first hold emptiness?"
And that is the ultimate challenge for us, isn't it? Our cup is perpetually overflowing with data, notifications, opinions. We're constantly skimming, scrolling, consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can't empty the cup of the mind on a mountaintop, how do we do it in the chaos of a Tuesday morning kitchen?
Well, the practice asks for the opposite of our modern momentum. It says, stay, look again, drink slowly.
And in that slowness,
In that slowness, the mundane becomes magical. The practice is seeing the familiar as if for the very first time. Not with the eyes of memory, which just label it, but with the eyes of wonder, which truly see it.
we assume deep insight requires some dramatic setting, a retreat far away.
Huh.
But you're suggesting it happens right here.
It does. It happens between the moment the tea is poured and the moment it touches your lips. Consider what we call the koan of original face.
Okay.
Trace the cup's lineage. Before it was chipped, before it was stained, before it was ever glazed, what was it? Clay, water, fire, earth.
And before that.
Stardust. Every single object in front of you is just a temporary constellation of energy. And when you hold it with awareness, it whispers back, "I am not separate from you. We are both just passing through."
Wow. That perspective gives a profound, almost revolutionary weight to the most common actions like washing dishes.
Exactly. We usually see that as a chore to rush through, to get to the important part of the day.
Right.
But what if you treated that ordinary act as if it were the most important act of the day? Attention is the rarest currency in our age. We are drowning in data, but starving for presence.
So wake up in your kitchen.
Wake up in your kitchen. Treat the rinsing and drying of the cup not as a chore to be endured, but as a silent, focused meditation. The cup's power lies not in what it is, but in what it invites. The chance to be fully, utterly present.
And now let's talk about the break itself, because that's what makes this object imperfect, right? The fracture.
Think of the Japanese practice of taking broken pottery and repairing it, not by hiding the crack, but by filling it with gold. Or lacquer mixed with gold dust.
That's Kintsugi, right? Mending with gold.
Yes, Kintsugi, it's a physical manifestation of this whole philosophy. The fracture is not a mistake to be concealed, it's highlighted. It becomes part of the object's beauty, its story. Its value actually increases.
So the break is where the true beauty lies.
And your old cup may not be literally glued with gold, but it's held together by something just as precious. Your continued attention, your affection, each time you choose it over the shiny new one, you're saying, "I honor what has lasted. I value what has known me."
And that, I think, is the real provocation for you listening. What if your entire life is a collection of old cups? Your worn relationships, your difficult but nourishing routines, the small mistakes that shaped who you are? We're just constantly being told that worth equals newness, flawlessness.
We have to intentionally flip that script. The counterintuitive insight here is that the more something has been used, the more sacred it becomes, because it has been loved into being. Love isn't in the initial acquisition, it's in the tending, the repairing, and that continued choosing.
And that presence, it spreads outward, doesn't it? If I offer a friend tea in that chipped cup, they might point to the flaw.
And you just smile. It's not broken, you say, it's been lived in.
Right.
And in that simple act of shared tea and shared silence, the cup becomes a mirror for them too. They see their own cracks, not as failures to hide, but as proof that they have been here, fully, messily, and beautifully.
That is so much more substantial than anything a perfect, unused mug could ever offer. It's an authentic exchange.
It is. Which brings us to the final paradox. The cup is empty most of the time. It sits, waiting. And it's empty now, not just because the chi is gone, but because the striving to fill it with meaning, with purpose, with achievement has stopped.
And in that emptiness, when the striving is gone, the cup becomes full of something else.
Space. Possibility.
The joy was never in the cup.
It was always in the space between you and it, in your willingness to be present with it, flaws and all. And once you truly see this, the cup no longer needs to be special. It's free to just be a cup.
So that's the ultimate goal then, this liberation. The release.
Yeah.
Letting go of the intense need to make everything mean something profound.
Think of that famous exchange where a Zen master was asked, "What is the Buddha?"
And what did he say?
He replied with this magnificent simplicity, 3 pounds of flax. Not poetry, not complex doctrine, just flax. Just this.
Your cup is your 3 pounds of flax.
It is. Everything you need for wisdom and contentment is right here.
But the mind still clings. It asks, is that really enough? Can I be content with just this chipped cup?
And that question isn't a failure. It's a doorway. Let it linger. Don't rush to answer it. Sometimes clarity feels like a loss because it strips away the comfortable illusion that joy is only found in the extraordinary or the exotic or the brand new.
And we have to acknowledge the final truth of Mujo. One day, that cup will break.
It will. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in years. But when it shatters, you kneel and you gather the pieces, not in despair to fix it.
But to honor the journey.
Exactly. And in that moment, you realize a final, powerful truth. The cup was never yours to keep. It was yours to meet. The form is gone, but the lesson, the awareness it cultivated in you, that remains.
Because the awareness is still here. And when that realization hits, you start seeing other cups everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The worn path you walk every day,
Yeah.
suddenly it has this glowing detail. The sound of a loved one's voice, which you had just filed away as background noise, is suddenly heard as this unique melody.
You stop chasing depth because you realize you were already standing in the ocean. And so, for the quiet turn, the final koan to take with you, what remains when the cup is gone? Not memory, not nostalgia, not the shape of the ceramic. What remains is the same awareness that held the cup all along.
And that awareness doesn't fade.
It expands because it was never dependent on the cup. The cup was just a temporary shape it took.
Like a wave is a shape the ocean takes.
You are not the wave, you are the ocean. The ultimate lesson is that attention is not something you give to the cup, but something the cup reminds you that you already possess.
So the instruction for us, for you listening, is not to seek the answer to the kokugan, but just to listen to the stillness that remains.
The silence is not empty. It is full of everything. You don't need to understand it or categorize it. You only need to be here, just now, just this.
Just this. What a powerful, simple thought to carry forward. Thank you for guiding us through this deep dive into the quiet heart of the ordinary.